Roger Christopherson here again with another first listen review. If you love listening to somebody babble about music that they love, you came to the right place because that's what we do here. We do a lot of babbling about music that I love anyway. And this is one of those bands that I got into way back when they first came onto the scene. Actually, what was the year that? That was 84. These guys came out, and I remember buying their first album and walking around Sears carrying this album, just looking at it, like just anticipating getting home and throwing it on and just being able to listen to it. And I'm talking about Honeymoon Suite. This is a new album called Alive, which I'm glad to see is not a live album, because that's kind of what I thought when I first saw the title of it. They've got a couple other live albums which are decent, but I was looking more forward to a studio album, and that's what we got here. We got a studio album. It's their first album since Clifton Hill in 2008. Although I do have to add in here that they have what they're calling an EP that was like promoted and funded, called Hands Up, and that was done back in 2016. Which I'm not sure why that's classified as an EP, because I think it's actually longer than this album. It's got like 9 songs on it, so I don't know why they're classifying that as an EP. But anyway, this is the first album since that anyway, and that's a good album too. So, and Clifton Hill was their big comeback album. They'd done a few, in between in the early 2000s there, but I guess Clifton Hill was their big comeback. They've actually since changed a couple members, but their lineup now consists of the 3 original members: Johnny D on vocals, Derry Graham on guitars and keyboards, and Dave Betts on drums. They now have Gary Lalonde on bass and Peter Noon, or Nunn, I'm not sure how you say that one, on keyboards. I believe that's what is correct. If I'm wrong on that, please correct me, as I'm sure somebody will. But wasn't really sure what to expect on this one. I know their first album, that they had, I was talking about, the big hit was New Girl Now. I was really young. I remember hearing that on the radio, and I just, for whatever reason, that song just really reached out and grabbed me, and I went out and I got that album. Now the rest of the album is not quite that style, quite as heavy as that song was, as rockin'. I mean, it wasn't like wimpy or anything, but it wasn't quite up to that. Now the next 2 albums after that, The Big Prize and Racing After Midnight, a little bit more rock. I remember Racing After Midnight, I think, was supposed to be like the big thing for them, even though these guys never really made it huge, which is kind of crazy, because Racing After Midnight, just that album, even to this day, I love that album. It's probably the highlight of their career for me. I don't know, maybe it is for them too. Then they went on a little bit of a hiatus after that, and they didn't release anything for a few years, and they started changing their style around and changed things up a little bit. I just remember on that particular album, the song Love Changes Everything, it was just huge. And then, of course, they did the Lethal Weapon thing with Michael Kamen, and that was, just a big deal. Tim Templeman had produced that album. So, but since then, not a whole lot have we heard from them. A couple albums here and there sporadically. That really didn't do a whole lot here in the States where I'm from. I'm not sure how big they were over in Canada where they are from, but in case anybody doesn't know, the Honeymoon Suite, they're kind of named after Niagara Falls, the honeymoon capital of the world. And Clifton Hill, I think, is one of the places in Niagara Falls there, if I'm not mistaken. I'm actually not too far away from Niagara Falls myself. I'm about an hour and a half away from Niagara Falls. I should know this stuff. But anyway, so when this album kicked in, it's a really short album. It's a little over half hour. I was kind of surprised, actually, how short it was. But luckily enough, it's actually a pretty decent album. It kicks in with the song Alive, which I'm not going to try to offend anybody with this, but my initial reaction was, holy crap, it sounds like 30 Seconds to Mars. And it's a very short song. It's only like 2.5 minutes long. But once that's over and it kicks in to Find What You're Looking For, I'm like, oh, here we go. This could have came right after the Racing After Midnight. It was that rock, pop, catchy, heavy guitar thing going on. Johnny D's vocals there are still top notch. I mean, he hasn't missed a beat with the vocals. The production on this album is really good. And then it started getting a little bit strange again after this. So this album's kind of like all over the place as far as like production goes. Like the songwriting is really good. They're catchy. but like the song, but the production like had me like wondering what they were kind of going for. I mean, I was getting like, it's weird that I'm saying, to compare this, but it sounded like Backstreet Boys production with like rock on several of these songs after that. Done Doing Me was the next one here in line, which, it was a cool song. It didn't really do a whole lot for me, but it was kind of good there. But then I don't know exactly how to explain it. I kept like having these feelings of like, this is a production style that I remember hearing like my sisters listen to on like Backstreet Boys and like New Kids on the Block type production. Maybe not quite that old, but with the newer production, like mid 90s there. And it kept coming and going, and then then a couple of songs would just like rock out, like Living Out Loud, I think, was one of the ones that I really didn't have that newer sound. Had more of the older Honeymoon Suite sound in there. I don't know exactly what they were going for on this. There's a cool ballad on here, Love Comes, which is actually really good. That one was nice, and it ends with a slower song, Doesn't Feel That Way, which actually was probably, even though it was not like heavy at all, but it was probably my favorite song. That and Finding What You're Looking For, probably my favorite songs on here. Overall, not a bad album. Like, don't get me wrong, the songs are good. In fact, there isn't one song I would skip over on here at all. Just the production on it was just weird. It would be like cool and rocking at one moment, and then it felt like they were trying to go for a pop sound that in a different song. So it's just kind of weird how it was produced. So I don't know if that's what they intended or what they're really trying to do here, or they did these things like a different day of the week, they'd change their mind what they were going for. I don't know. It was just kind of weird, but overall, I enjoyed it. I just thought the production was really inconsistent. But other than that, I would say this is a decent album, worth listening to, worth checking out. If you're a Honeymoon Suite fan, you're probably going to like this. I enjoyed it, like the songs. I kind of wish that the production had been a little bit more rock, like the Racing After Midnight style, or even just more modern, not in the pop vein, more in the rock vein. But other than that, that's really all I have to add there. I know I kind of babbled a little bit more than normal on this one, but as always, feel free to share your thoughts on what you think about this one. If there's anything you want to add in, any cool Honeymoon Suite stories or anything that you guys want to add, as always, feel free, and like, share, and subscribe to keep this music alive, because I think these guys are really cool. Good band out there still doing it, and I think they deserve to be seen. And it's funny that I've actually never seen them, being as I'm so close to where they're from, but they've never really come close enough for me to check them out. But maybe someday. So hopefully we'll get there and I'll get to check these guys out live. But anyway, until next time, we'll see ya.